the survivor squad arrived at a crossroads, and the scene before them left them utterly shocked. They saw lifeless bodies hanging upside down on both sides, as if the end of this road was a gateway to hell. Negan had intended to suggest going around this place, but before he could finish his sentence, Roy was struck by an arrow through the head. Elijah's hand was severed by a flying dagger, and there were arrows coming at them from the air. They had no choice but to seek cover and hide. Daryl cautiously peeked out and saw a dozen masked figures armed and approaching them. They were the Reapers, the very ones Maggie had warned them about. And these people moved through the woods like ghosts. Alden hadn't even spotted the enemy when a throwing knife found its mark in his shoulder. Elijah, who had lost his hand, was slow to run, and one of the Reapers wiped his neck from behind. Duncan, who was sprinting, couldn't escape his fate either, as several throwing knives embedded themselves in his body. These Reapers didn't engage in direct combat. They moved like specters, waiting for the perfect moment to deliver a deadly blow. Daryl saw one of the Reapers disappear into the woods and immediately called his dog to chase after them, with several Reapers following suit. Maggie tries to sneak up on them, but a rope catches her around the neck, and Cole sees it and rushes over to back her up. When Maggie managed to break free and stand up, the surroundings had fallen eerily silent. Maggie picked up Cole's scythe, sensing someone watching her from behind. The Reaper seemed surprised, but by the time he turned to look, Maggie had disappeared. The following morning, Maggie followed the trail of blood on the ground. Most of the group had scattered. They were being hunted by the Reapers. Maggie was seething with anger. This organization had previously destroyed their home, and now they were mercilessly slaughtering her group once again. She refused to believe that all her friends had been killed. Finding them was her top priority now. Maggie kept a vigilant eye on her surroundings, confident that she had shaken off the Reaper who had been tailing her. After a while, Maggie arrived at the side of a building. She had intended to open the door and take shelter for a while before searching for the others. But just as Maggie was about to open the door, the Reapers caught up to her. Maggie quickly ran behind an obstacle and hid, but she didn't see her attackers. Luckily, the door wasn't locked, and Maggie easily slipped inside. This seemed to be a staircase leading to the basement. At the very bottom, there was a door that Maggie opened and stepped inside. She then placed a glass bottle behind the door, a precaution in case the Reapers were to follow, giving her an early warning. After these actions, Maggie fumbled her way into the basement. The place appeared deserted and hadn't seen human activity in quite some time, she guessed. Following the signs on the wall, Maggie made her way to the stairs on the other side. This building had multiple floors, and she was determined to reach the top for better visibility of her surroundings. 5 minutes later, Maggie had lost count of how many floors she had climbed. Maggie was looking down with her torch when suddenly a zombie jumped at her from behind. Fortunately, her quick reflexes prevented her from getting bitten, and after a struggle, she dispatched the zombie with a knife to its head. Unfortunately, her flashlight had fallen as well, probably due to the severely decayed railing. Now, Maggie had no choice but to ascend the remaining stairs in darkness. 15 years in the post-apocalyptic world had made Maggie remarkably resilient. Upon reaching the top floor, Maggie prepared to use her lighter for illumination. Unaware that a figure was lurking behind her, Maggie kicked the Reapers straight down. Maggie breathed a sigh of relief, realizing she might have died if she hadn't heard the noise from inside. But at that moment, footsteps echoed in the darkness once more. Maggie had no choice but to rush into the room ahead. This floor appeared spacious. In the pre-apocalyptic days, it might have been under construction for a shopping center or something similar. Maggie cautiously explored the room, as the noise had emanated from here earlier. Suddenly, Maggie noticed movement behind the wall. Maggie used all her strength to hold onto the scythe. If she couldn't hold on, she would die. She wanted to get the bottle next to her to fight back, so she used her foot to support the man's arm, and then freed one hand to get the bottle. That's when Negan appeared behind the man and he slammed his stick down. They exchanged a quick glance but didn't have time to speak. Maggie picked up a knife from the floor and thrust it into the Reaper's back. However, the man managed to retrieve 2 items from his waist and tossed them in their direction. Negan pulled Maggie out of the way. When the smoke cleared, the Reaper who had just died was nowhere to be found, leaving only a pool of blood on the floor. They moved over to Alden, who was lucky to be alive but had sustained serious abdominal injuries. There were 4 wounds on his stomach, but judging by Alden's condition they shouldn't be deep, but walking might be a struggle. Even in his condition, Alden insisted on heading to the supply station, believing that their comrades could survive and catch up with them. This left Negan quite puzzled. Maggie reiterated her determination that the plan wouldn't change, and they would continue on to the supply station. After all, the people of Alexandria's safe zone were counting on them to bring back food. This woman was truly stubborn, and in the end, Negan gave in. Since he can't change her mind, he's in. They continued, supporting Alden, but progress was slow due to his severe injuries. It had taken them half an hour, and they still had 16 miles to go. Suddenly, they heard a woman's voice up ahead. Maggie didn't hesitate. She assisted Alden and walked in the direction of the voice. It could very well be their comrades in trouble. Facing the Reapers, following the sound, they arrived at a house where a woman was fighting off zombies. It was their companion, Agatha. Upon seeing Maggie approach, Agatha's voice trembled as she said, "Duncan is in bad shape." Maggie followed Agatha inside and saw Duncan leaning against the wall. Duncan had been struck by several throwing knives the previous night, and now he was close to the end. Maggie found it hard to accept. Over the past few years, Duncan had become like family to her. He had not only supported her unconditionally but had also been exceptionally kind to Herschel.
Duncan, for all of it, I'm so sorry.
Why? You were lucky. You were good.
For a little while.
Promise. Make sure she gets home.
With a heavy heart, Maggie bid Duncan a final farewell, and they resumed their journey. Only they were followed by zombies, and not a few of them. As they walked, Alden and Maggie began to chat, reminiscing about everything that had happened at the hilltop, and he was convinced that Maggie had the power to keep everyone alive. As they continued, Alden was about to suggest that they leave him behind if the zombies got too close, realizing that his injuries were slowing them down significantly. But before he could voice his thoughts, Maggie interrupted him. She reassured Alden not to entertain such thoughts, as they would never abandon him. After a while, they noticed a body hanging from a tree up ahead, seemingly burned alive by someone. A sign above read "Hell," likely some kind of warning. As they paused in bewilderment, a large group of zombies began to surround them. Maggie yells at everyone to get out of there. Negan and Agatha covered them with their weapons. Just a few meters out, Alden accidentally fell to the ground and Negan quickly ran up to take over from Maggie. Negan instructed Maggie to cover from the side. Agatha had just killed a zombie but had her hand grabbed by another. Maggie was very anxious. She fought to kill the zombies and tried to pull Agatha out. Negan rushed up and hugged Maggie, telling her not to do anything rash. Agatha can't be saved. Maggie, in a fit of hysteria, demanded that Negan let go. She had just promised Duncan that she would bring Agatha back home, but now it had come to this. An hour passed, and Maggie finally regained her composure. This time, they were walking on a road, which was faster. After a while, a house appeared in front of them. Maggie decided to go inside and take a rest. While she and Negan could endure, Alden's injuries were severe. Inside, they were surprised to find an abandoned church. They sat on pews to catch their breath. Alden turned to Maggie and said, "You should leave me behind. At this rate, when will we ever reach the supply station? I'm just a burden now, and you both know it." Seeing that Maggie remained unmoved, Alden continued, "Do you know why I left Negan to join you? Because you always do the right thing, leading everyone to survive. So now, you have to do the same. Food is our mission. The children at Alexandria's safe zone are waiting for you, including my son, Adam. If this plan fails, everything we've done, and our future, will be meaningless. Everyone will starve." In the end, Maggie was swayed, and they decided to leave Alden behind temporarily, promising to return for him after completing the mission. They could only hope that the Reapers wouldn't find him in the meantime. And so, Maggie and Negan continued their journey together. It remained uncertain whether this arch-rival pair would be able to harmoniously complete their mission. Meanwhile, in a wooded area, Gabriel sat on the ground, resting. Last night, he was slashed on the neck by the Reapers. Fortunately, the wound was not deep and located on the side. Although he had survived, he was now being hunted by the Reapers. There was a struggle and the awl is still stuck in his thigh, but Gabriel was also more ruthless. The Reapers were seriously injured and were now fleeing in the distance. Gabriel glanced in that direction. Gritting his teeth and catching his breath, he intended to catch up and finish that bastard off. The apocalypse had driven people to madness. Even a priest could become a butcher. 10 minutes later, Gabriel reached a wooded area where the man's shoes were discarded on the ground. The wounded Reaper lay beside a tree, gasping for breath.
You moved slower than I thought you would. Why does you always come for me?
You tried to kill my friends.
Pray for me. I thought you were a man of God.
God isn't here anymore.